Hello, everyone. We're back, and we will start with the first speaker, Leah Silvia Lopez. And Leah is an engineer who uses empathy and her bag of math tricks to face problems in a reasonable way. And her passion is to study how people interact with products by looking at their previous digital traces that they have left behind. And Leah has worked with all from academia, consultancy, automotive, shipping, and logistics. And she is now working at a well-known e-commerce called Net on Net. So welcome, Leah.
Thanks, Peggy. And hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here at the For the Women, for the Win, for the Everything Amazing conference today. And welcome to my talk in which I, Leah Silva, will share a few strategies to help you feel better when advocating for yourself, most particularly during a salary negotiation. So I would like to start by saying that any opinions in this talk are all mine. They do not represent any of the companies that I work for. I came here as a fellow person, woman in tech that wants to help others feel better on their own skin. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into the thing. So when you think about it, salary negotiations, right? That's such a foreign thing, such a strange thing, right? They are notoriously one of the most dreaded, most intimidating kinds of conversations and moments that any human being puts itself through in this age. And it's also quite an interesting thing because it's a process in which two parties agree on a sum of money, which is a countable thing, it's measurable, it's tangible, in exchange for your work and for all the value that you bring to the table. And if you start digging a little bit more in that direction, you start seeing all the things that are strange about it. Like me as a person, I value myself, or I try to value myself every day, but my value shouldn't be measured in money. Well, a company, of course, how much is worth that company? $2 billion and all these things. And it's totally fine to measure a company in terms of money. In fact, that's the whole purpose of a company, right? But you as a person, your purpose and all the things that you are, like, it's a little bit strange, right? So attaching the value of you, the person, to the money that you're trying to request in a negotiation or to try to get out of a negotiation, that's a bit of a strange thing. And unfortunately, that and other things may cause us to feel really, really, really uncomfortable. And sometimes the value of your work is something that cannot be easily expressed in terms of money. But sometimes it is. And not everything that matters about how you do your work can be expressed in terms of money. However, it doesn't mean that all of these things around you will not or do not affect the negotiation. This you should always keep in mind. Let's do a little bit of a fun exercise in here. Normally for these talks, I prefer seeing people and gauging the reactions, but I'm going to take this by heart because I have practiced this with other people. How would you feel if I gave you right here, right now, in this talk, 10,000 euros? But I'm not. But imagine, right? Is that something that you would like? Maybe. I'd like to think that that would be a fun thing. What would you do with all that money, right? Now, think about that just for a short spell. And now, how would you feel if I told you that you can only spend that money on somebody else's dream? Ouch, right? And if you start calculating, okay, if I was to receive that money yearly and say say that you want to be in this sector for another 5 years, that starts setting up, right? You start thinking, oh, I could have, would have, blah, 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 the places that I would have went to, the house that I would have buy, how many doggies would I rescue, etc., etc. And you know, that sounds like a pretty horrible thing, right? So the thing is that this that I'm just telling you is exactly what we do to ourselves, and much worse when we choose to stay in a job that we're not happy with, compensated unfairly, and when we don't take any actions to evaluate that situation a little bit more carefully, because you are putting time of your life on this job. It's not just money, it's yourself, it's your feelings, it's things that you will never be able to live again. And then you wake up one day and you wonder, wow, what has happened to me? So I wouldn't want you to feel like that. I wouldn't want anyone to feel like that. And that is the whole point of this talk. Now, I am not here to say these things and then tell you, good luck, just walk out. No, no. I'm not here to tell you be terrible with yourself because of some strange standard that a lady on a screen is telling me about. No. I promise strategies to help you feel better during a salary negotiation. And that's exactly what this is. So let's jump right to it. I want to state also another important thing about today's talk. So what I'm going to present to you for your consideration in your life is not things that are, this is not just something that you do half an hour before your salary negotiation, clickbaity, do this weird trick, bosses hate you for it because you walk away with the money bags. No, that's not the thing. These are hard things to do. These are habits that you add into your life and that you add into your thinking. This is how this works. So, for this to work for you, I would advise to try to practice them at least a couple times per year. And it's important that you're really, really, really honest about yourself and about how you do these things. This is the key part, being really, really, really honest with yourself. So the first strategy is mostly about understanding the value that this job brings into your life, together with the value that you bring into the job. This allows you to take action into how to steer your life and your job much before that salary negotiation meeting. And the second strategy is to commit to take action according to what you learn from the exercises on the first strategy. So part 2 is actually harder than part 1, and part 1 is not easy. Exploring yourself is a really, really, really difficult thing to do. But you can do this. I know you can. That's why you're here today, I hope. So, strategy number 1, understanding what this job brings to you and what you bring to the job. So, there's a few questions that you should try to ask yourself constantly. What is the purpose of you picking this job at this company and in this moment of your life? Why right now? Why not later? Why this place? Why not another place? What is this combination of factors bringing to your table? Is this a job? Is this job a stepping stone for your upcoming dream job? Or is the daily work really exciting and you're after that excitement? Are your colleagues like super supportive people and you always dream to have that kind of environment around you, firefly style, take my etc. I kind of do. Do you thrive where you're working? Is your work respected? Do you get sufficient opportunities and responsibility? Are your opinions considered? Where is your career going, and would you be happy if you were to stay at this same job for 5 more years? How does it feel inside of you when you're asking yourself those questions? Write the answers down with full honesty. Write how it feels. Don't allow rationalization necessarily to jump in here. This is about feelings, and this is about what you observe in a very objective way. How well is this job aligning with your dreams? By the way, it's really hard also to figure out what your dreams are, especially in this ever-changing economy. So do not feel any pressure from this lady on the screen telling you have to have a dream, because you don't have to. It's totally fine if you don't have it. It may or may not show up, and you can still live a perfectly fulfilling, happy life. Of course, if you had a dream, it will be much easier to align everything around to. So it's just a very convenient practicality to have a dream. But yeah, it's totally fine to not to. But if you do, think about this alignment of this job to what you dream of in life, because you are investing some of your own time at this job. So it should matter to you, because it's your life, your dream, you, not your boss, not the boss of your boss, not the boss of the company. No, 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 no. You. Now, here comes more the part of the value that you bring into the job, which is part of this negotiation thing. Now, how do you think that the company that you're working on or that you aspire to work on makes money? Inform yourself about this. Is this a product company? Is it services? Is it consultancy? Is it an agency? What kind of customers does this company have? And how do they define customers? If they, yeah, that you should try to learn. Understanding how your company is able to survive can help you find arguments that can resonate with the people that will sit and decide this salary. So that's a very important part of this exercise. Now, about your specific role or the role that you want to get. How does this role connect to the way the company makes money? Is my work directly connected to revenue? Am I building a critical part of the product or service? If it's easy for you, Toblerone, I'm sorry. If it's easy for you to see that connection, be ready to give a simple explanation to the interviewer, because sometimes the person actually making the decision for your compensation may not be fully aware of how critical your work is. And I know that this is something that one often takes for granted, but you'll be surprised. So it's never going to be too much to be able to give that explanation or to just slip it in at some point. And if it is difficult for you to see the connection of your role to the revenue, try anyway to spend a little bit of time thinking about that. It's anyway a good thing to keep in mind. Now, how does the way you perform your role affect the way the company makes money? This is an extremely important question, and unless your skill set is pretty niche, then your biggest value over the other 10,000, 1,000, 100,000 humans that can do your job, well, the value over that comes from the way your particular way of doing the job is adding value to the company. And to answer this question, it can be very helpful if you keep track of the moments in which you saved the day, also known as dragon slaying stories. Try to collect these stories when you're doing in your daily job, and try to take them with you to your negotiation meeting. Try to keep track of the days in which you did things that you didn't need to do, in which you went above and beyond to try to save the day, and you managed. Also, try to even if you don't manage, just the fact that you tried is very valuable. So try to keep track of all of those circumstances and the value that you gave to the company, because sometimes a failure is not a failure. It just means that you tried, and you tried, and that's a win. It's important that you showcase how your skills and your intangibles led to obvious monetary consequences, if you can. For promotions, make sure that you can have stories that can make your interviewer see how you have tackled challenges that could be sort of connected to the position that you want to be promoted to. Bonus points if you can connect your skills and personality traits to the revenue of the company or the unit you work on, so that then you're putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Like, okay, money. For companies, it's easy, money, companies, but you're a person. You're trying to connect whatever is that you're having of your work to the money, so that they can give you more money, right? That's a way to do so. And all of the things that I have just mentioned right now are actually pretty difficult things to do, but they're not the hardest thing to do. To me, particularly, it could be that for you, your journey is going to be different if you choose to do any of this. But the second part, it's the hardest one for me, which is committing to take action about what you learn about yourself and the circumstances of your work, which you learn in part 1. So the first time that you do strategy number 1, it can be pretty tough. It doesn't really get easier with time either. And every time that I change jobs or that I change roles, I find myself back to square 1 or 2, sort of. I have learned to see this differently through time, and it doesn't terrify me anymore. But I'm not at the point in which I can say that this is a comfortable walk in the park. So you may find yourself with a lot of doubts when you're doing part 1 and part 2. And if you suffer from imposter syndrome, like yours truly here, you may panic. But guess what, people? The title of this talk is not, oh, when in doubt, give up. No, the title of this talk is When in Doubt, There. So I want to say this louder, but there's a dog on my neighbors, and he may get upset, but dare to do more, dare to try this. Feel discomfort. Allow this feeling to come to you and allow it to pass. And remember this feeling, because it passed through you and you survived it. Actually, you passed through it instead. Ha! Remember that and remember that this feeling comes from a place of grounding. I mean, the ground was there to catch you gently as you fell into it. You fell on the ground, but guess what? Now this is where you start building. Now you have both feet on the ground. Now you have taken a very critical look of your life, of your work, of your company, of your dreams. And then you are standing on both feet. And now it's time for action. So what have you learned about yourself? What else do you think that you need to learn? And if you get a no in your requested salary, well, guess what? Will you still feel like you're getting value in other ways? Maybe, maybe not. And this you would have learned from the exercise. Then you would have seen, okay, why am I staying in this company? I'm staying because that. And I want more money because, of course, money, right? And if you get it, then that's great. And if you don't get it, maybe you will realize that this money that I was telling you about in the beginning of the talk is something that you are taking out of your pocket so that you can get the values that you're getting out of being in this job. And maybe you decide to stay, but then you're making a conscious decision that this is money you're taking from your pocket, from what you think you should be getting, and investing it on something that gives you value. And that is a perspective that will make you feel a lot better after a salary negotiation. And well, maybe you will realize that, okay, what I'm getting here is not justifying things, so I'm just going to go and find a new job. And then you just go and find a new job. And if you go through this exercise a couple of times, then, well, you will be assessing constantly your career, your life, and it's not gonna feel personal eventually, because it's just a job and it's just a talk and it's just a company that you can put in numbers. But you yourself, you are you, and your value is inside. There are more people. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here and for celebrating Women's Day today. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much, Leah. That was really an awesome presentation and sharing some great strategies for negotiations. And it seems like a lot of it is about self-reflection as well, right? Taking the time to analyze the value you can bring to a business. So for everyone watching, if you have questions, please put them in the chat right now. We want to hear from you. We want you to interact and engage, and Leah wants to answer your questions. I wanted to ask you something though, Leah, as well, because I think for a lot of people, when it comes to salary negotiations, it can be a very nerve-wracking and daunting thing. And of course, your strategy, a big thing is around preparation, which can help calm the nerves. But can you share any other advice, I guess, for breaking down the stigma of this discussion and overcoming the nerves when you do go into the chat?
Yeah, so from the way that I work, particularly, I find comfort in numbers. So one thing that I do is I investigate the market. I listen to things. If I feel or if I know, because it has happened, people, it has happened that I have felt underpaid at some point of my life. I didn't have these strategies, and it was of course hard, and it didn't always work out the way that I wanted. I just armed myself with numbers and explained the value of my work, and well, there were results, and yeah, sometimes it felt great. But after getting on the practice of being uncomfortable and doing these things, I started feeling a lot better. And also, once I found like a lot of freedom when disconnecting my worth from whatever number that I'm putting out. Because sometimes there's this mental limit of, oh, I couldn't possibly be earning blank. But then you go and you say blank. And sometimes they jump and sometimes they don't. So dare to blank a little bit above the target and see where that takes you.
Love that, Leah. I think I love this common theme about just daring to try and go for it. What is the worst that could happen? And you mentioned practice a lot. Who did you tend to practice with, or can you share any advice in that as well?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky because I have the most amazing husband in the world, and he helps me sometimes see the value. We're both in tech, and he helps me. We help each other a lot. So if you have someone in your network of support that is also in tech, or a mentor that you can go and talk to, they can, be cheerleaders for you and make you realize things about yourself that you didn't know. So go reach out to the people that you trust. And if you don't, then find those people. Come to these events and find people that can be your cheerleaders.
Yeah, that's it. Surround yourself with a supportive network of people who are willing to help you. And if you can't find that, I'm sure you will somewhere, because there's so many people out there who are willing to help. So don't be afraid to ask. But you always have a mirror that you could practice in front of as well, right? Just to get into that flow of speaking and just practicing this conversation. And Leah, for you, what would you say is the single greatest piece of advice when it does come to self-advocacy?
The single for self-advocacy, this is going to sound a little bit not very politically incorrect, but sometimes you have to just not give a shit. Or give the right amounts of shits for things that matter, but don't care about what another person may be thinking about you, because you're going to go crazy. So just do what you think is right, and people will respect that. And don't get strong into what some other person may think about you, because Yeah.
I love that. Do not hold back. And again, just go for it. I think that's fantastic, Leah. And also, you did touch on something in your talk about the imposter syndrome. And
Yep.
that is very real. I know that feeling all too well. And also, research states that over 70% of us experience imposter syndrome. How have you worked to overcome your own imposter syndrome?
Oh, I'm not over it. I'm not over it at all. I will say I've been reading this book lately. I forgot the author, but he's like I forgot the author, but he was mentioning about this really awesome woman in Iceland who dared to go for the presidential elections, and she was mentioning that imposter syndrome has actually been what helped her be better and get such good results, because when you unfortunately have this voice that makes you second guess yourself, you are more thorough, you listen to other people, you reach out for advice, and you take it and you consider it, and you try to find, like, if you just listen to unfortunate voices that could be outside those naysayers or the naysayers in your head, you're just going to go crazy. But if you find a reasonable way to measure the outcome of your work, that gives you a lot of peace. So I look a lot for very grounding, very objective things that I can use to measure things. And then that gives me a lot of comfort. As I said, comfort in numbers and facts.
That sounds great. It'd be awesome if you could share the link to that book maybe in the chat, Leah, after your presentation as well, for everyone to check it out. I actually sat in on a really interesting webinar recently, and it compared your imposter syndrome to the ridiculous spell in Harry Potter. So if there's any Harry Potter fans out there, when Professor Snape is coming out to Neville Longbottom, he says ridiculous, and it turns Snape into some crazy character. And it's almost like doing a ridiculous to your imposter syndrome. So say ridiculous to the imposter syndrome as well, and understand that you're not alone in these feelings. Thank you for sharing that, Leah. I can certainly relate. And is there anything else you'd like to share for our listeners on self-advocacy, negotiations?
No, I think I said it all in this talk. People just there and do this self-reflection exercise, and try to find a network of support that can help you. So that's all. And you have come a long way just by coming here and trying to do a change about yourself. So feel proud.
Love that. Feel proud in everything you do. Thank you so much for an amazing presentation, Leah. I know that you'll be hanging around for a little while on the chat as well. So if anyone has any questions, are they okay to reach out to you?
Of course. Or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and yeah, that will be fun.
Amazing. So we're going to take a short 5-minute break right now, as we have an upcoming talk with Vanessa Eriksson, and she'll be sharing her top 3 strategies for staying resilient when faced with rejection. So we'll see you all in 5 minutes. Feel free to grab a drink, get comfortable, and talk to you soon.